first time in 3,500 years since the Jewish nation received the Kabbalistic teachings at Har Sinai, along with the rest of the written and the oral Torah. The learning of Kabbalah has never been so tangible. With the Kabbalah Garden's 3D video animations, the learning of Kabbalah in our modern age is elevated to the next dimension, to the third dimension, and even to the fourth. In this introductory video, we'll introduce you to the Kabbalah Garden website and its revolutionary 3D animated video lessons, and the great contribution that modern technology offers to the study of Kabbalah in our modern age. But before we delve into the Kabbalah Garden itself, let us first appreciate what the study of Kabbalah actually is and where it fits in the scheme of the Torah heritage at large throughout history. Many people may think that the study of Kabbalah is a new modern trend, but in truth, Kabbalah is an inseparate part of the Torah that also dates back to the revelation of the Torah in Har Sinai. Kabbalah is the Torah in its purest form. It is the spiritual model of the entire creation. At the level of Kabbalah, the stories and the mitzvot of the Torah exist in their pure spiritual state, devoid of any physicality whatsoever. Kabbalah is the Torah that Adam HaRishon learned in Gan Eden before he ate from the forbidden fruit of knowledge. Kabbalah is the Torah of the first tablets that Moshe Rabbeinu brought down from Har Sinai, and had it not been for the making of the golden calf, we would not need any other form of the Torah. Kabbalah is the Torah of the days of Mashiach, and it is the Torah of the world to come. So where exactly does the Kabbalah Garden website fit into the Kabbalistic tradition? And what is our contribution to the Torah world? Till around 700 years ago, only a handful of select individuals were fortunate to receive the Kabbalistic secrets of the Torah, only mouth to mouth, and only from one rabbi to his closest disciple. However, the rest of the Jewish nation, including most of the learned Torah scholars, were not privy to this secretive oral transmission. Then, around the turn of the 6th millennium in the year 5000 from creation, the Holy Zohar was discovered and began to quickly make waves around the Torah world. And even more so once the Zohar was printed and became available to everyone. But as anyone who ever opened up the Zohar knows, the Holy Zohar hides much more than it actually reveals, as the passages of the Zohar are as cryptic as can be, waiting to be unlocked. Who would be the one to unlock the Holy Zohar? Fortunately, around 500 years ago, the Holy Arizal was chosen to decode the cryptic passages of the Zohar with the help of Eliyahu Hanavi, who reconnected the latter generations with the oral tradition from Har Sinai, what led to the systematic organization of the Arizal's teachings by his great disciple, Rabbi Chaim Vital. By all means, the teachings of the Arizal are the code to the Holy Zohar. Had it not been for the Arizal's teachings, the Zohar would have remained a barricaded treasure box till this day. With all that said, the teachings of the Arizal are not spoon-fed and must be understood in order to be appreciated, and that demands great toil and effort on behalf of the learners. Not only that, but as I gained more and more experience learning the teachings of the Arizal with my fellow Jews, I took to heart that besides the necessary toil and effort, there is something else that stands between the eager learners and their success. What am I referring to? I discovered that even some of the most learned rabbis and smartest professors struggle greatly when it comes to picturing the abstract spiritual realities that the Arizal describes in the eye of their mind. And this is exactly where the Kabbalah Garden website comes into the picture. Let me show you what I'm referring to. For example, the most common difficulty that learners have is picturing the arrangement of the 5 spiritual worlds in relation one to the other, as well as in relation to the infinite creator, which the Kabbalists call the Ein Sof. Before I demonstrate to you how the Kabbalah Garden's state-of-the-art 3D videos handle these secrets by means of animation, let us first experience how till this day newcomers were exposed to these most abstract secrets. The Arizal teaches us that in the very beginning, the only thing that existed was the infinite light of the Ein Sof. Then the Ein Sof constricted himself in a circular fashion in what we call the act of Tzimtzum, in order to make room, so to speak, for all the spiritual worlds to be created in. This room is what the Arizal calls the empty circular halal. Then the Ein Sof inserted the kav, which is a pipeline of sorts, into that empty halal, through which the infinite light returns back into the halal. From this kav, all 5 spiritual worlds were emanated. They are Adam Kadmon, Olam Ha'atzilut, Olam HaBeriya, Olam HaYetzira, and Olam HaAsiya. Bear with me some more. The Arizal also teaches us that each one of these worlds has one representation in the circular arrangement of the worlds, what we call the Igulim, as well as one representation in the linear arrangement of the worlds, what we call the Yosher. Not only that, but each one of these circular and linear worlds is made out of 10 Sefirot and 12 Partsufim, arranged one higher than the other and one inside of the other. Not only that, but when the Arizal goes into greater detail, we are told that these worlds are not necessarily equidistant one from the other, but rather they begin at a certain place and end at another place. And since I don't want to lose your attention, I won't go into any more details. Now tell me, from all of the above, what picture do you see in the eye of your mind? And this is only the very beginning of the Arizal's teachings. How's a newcomer supposed to feel if he can't even organize in his head the very first details in the writings of the Arizal? And although I definitely encourage everyone to seek out a reputable Kabbalah teacher that will guide him step by step through this maze of spiritual concepts, nevertheless, as I said before, my experience tells me that even with a Kabbalah teacher, some of the most advanced Torah scholars and smartest professors struggle greatly to picture all of this in the eye of their mind, for the reason that not everybody is blessed with the gift of abstract thinking. Now, as promised, let me show you how here in the Kabbalah Garden website, in the very first series of videos, we learn all of the above mentioned details in an organized fashion. After we diligently clarify the nature of the infinite presence of the Ein Sof, we begin with the initial point of Tzimtzum, from which the empty halal eventually grew larger and larger in a circular fashion. Then we bring to life the Arizal's explanation of why the empty halal that resulted from the Tzimtzum was circular and not in any other shape. Then we animate how the Kav, which is the pipeline for the infinite light of the Ein Sof, returns back into the empty halal, and how it is connected to the Ein Sof on one side, and how it ends in the very center of the halal on the other side. What sets the scales for the concepts of up versus down and more versus less within the circular halal. Till now we managed with only 2-dimensional diagrams. However, from this point on, we'll fall upon 3D technology to impress upon our learners how the 5 worlds were created and arranged, both in general terms as well as in their circular and linear components. We begin with the first and the highest of all the worlds, known as Adam Kadmon, seen here in the color blue, and demonstrate in great detail how both its circular and linear components, known as the 12 Partsufim, were emanated stage by stage within the circular halal. We place special emphasis upon the relationship between the circular elements of Adam Kadmon and the circular halal, as well as on the relationship between the linear elements to the linear kav, which is the above-mentioned pipeline for the infinite light that is always connected to the Ein Sof. We then proceed with the second of the 5 worlds, Olam HaAtzilut, seen here in the color red. Notice the careful arrangement of Olam HaAtzilut in the upper half of Adam Kadmon, as the spiritual worlds are not necessarily arranged in a perfectly matched organization, one within the other like a Russian doll. We again enumerate the private details of Olam HaAtzilut, known as the 12 Partsufim that were emanated one after another, not only in relation one to the other, but also in relation to Adam Kadmon. And in case you're wondering, what is this blue protrusion underneath the linear elements of Olam HaAtzilut? That's where the 3 bottom worlds are situated, Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. However, since they are too small to appreciate in our current view, we therefore zoom into that small area, which I've marked as the green box, so to speak, and we examine its parts. After all, there are no less than 3 more worlds in that tiny green area. First, we examine Olam HaBeriah, which is the highest of these 3 bottom worlds, again, both in its circular and its linear elements. Then we introduce Olam HaYetzirah, which is the second of these 3 bottom worlds. And then we introduce Olam HaAsiyah, which is the lowest of all the spiritual worlds. And should you ask, where exactly are we in this picture? Where is the physical world in which we human beings live in? In order to impress upon our learners just how small and seemingly insignificant our physical world is in relation to the entire Olam HaAsiyah, never mind in relation to the rest of the spiritual worlds, we therefore set off on a guided tour around the physical planets that make up the physical part of Olam HaAsiyah. First, we take to heart that our planet Earth is but one small part of our solar system. Then we take to heart that our solar system is but one small part of its stellar neighborhood. Then we take to heart that our stellar neighborhood is actually one tiny part of our galaxy, the Milky Way. Then we take to heart that even our galaxy is but one small part of its neighborhood of galaxies. Then we take to heart that our neighborhood of galaxies is but one cluster in a sea of other clusters. And then we take to heart that even that sea of clusters is but one supercluster in a sea of other superclusters. Then we take to heart that even that sea of superclusters is but one tiny part of the entire universe known to science today. And now we'll again take to heart that till this point our guided tour has covered only the physical part of Olam HaAsiyah, at least what the scientists know of. But you should know that even Olam HaAsiyah has a spiritual part as well, which is even greater than all of the above-mentioned physical stellar bodies. From this point onwards, we'll continue our guided tour from the point of reference of the spiritual part of Olam HaAsiyah, which after all is the lowest of all the spiritual worlds, and we'll make our way upwards towards the Creator. In doing so, we'll come to appreciate just how small the entire Olam HaAsiyah really is compared to the rest of the spiritual reality that the infinite Creator emanated within the circular halal. First, we take to heart that even the spiritual part of Olam HaAsiyah is actually the smallest of the three bottom worlds, Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, all of which are contained in that small green box, so to speak. Next, we zoom back out of this green box and appreciate just how small these three bottom worlds are compared to Olam HaAtzilut. Next, we come to appreciate just how small these three bottom worlds are compared to the greatest of the five worlds, Adam Kadmon. And finally, we take to heart just how tiny and insignificant all of these worlds are compared to the infinite Creator who emanated all of these worlds following the act of Tzimtzum. What we just learned is but one selected example from the teachings of the Arizal. But believe me, most newcomers struggle greatly when it comes to arranging and picturing all of these details in the eye of their mind, even the most intelligent learners. This is why the Kabbalah Garden website went into such great efforts in order to produce our clear video animations of the abstract secrets conveyed in the teachings of the Arizal. Using state-of-the-art software such as Maya, Cinema 4D, Adobe After Effects, and more, we bring the Arizal's teachings to life. But before I invite my eager Torah learners to try out the Kabbalah Garden website, I must take the time to iterate that at the end of the day, none of our 3D animations must be taken literally. Why not? Because all of our 3D animations are nothing more than an aid to help us better understand the abstract words of the Arizal. But in truth, even the Arizal's words themselves are actually nothing more than a parable made out of physical concepts used to describe the spiritual reality which our physical human brains cannot possibly fathom. As the Talmud points out, we cannot even sense our very own soul. If so, then certainly we couldn't be expected to gain a true picture of the spiritual worlds and the Sefirot and the Partzufim which they contain. Never mind concepts such as spiritual vessels and the lights, and not to mention the male and the female components that make up the spiritual realm. After all, these are all emanations of godliness, and we certainly cannot see God. Therefore, even at Har Sinai, we could not actually see the spiritual realm. This is why the Torah warns us in Parashat Va'etchanan that we must always remember that even when we heard the voice of Hashem speaking from the fire, we nevertheless saw no image of God. Ki lo re'item kol temuna. And why is that? Because physical human beings cannot see, or hear, or feel, or taste, or smell the spiritual realm at all, for the reason that our physical body gets in the way. What the nation of Israel did actually experience at Har Sinai was a communal prophecy. In fact, all the prophecies that we find in the Bible always speak in terms that can be written on paper and can be pictured in our mind, such as fire, clouds, angels with flapping wings, and so on. But these are only parables, as neither the entire Jewish nation at Har Sinai nor their prophets over the years actually saw the hidden spiritual realm. How's all of this related to us? The point that I'm trying to make is that this is also the way that the secret teachings of the Torah are transmitted, what we call Kabbalah. And this is exactly where we at the Kabbalah Garden website step in. Our contribution to the Torah world is to clarify the many intricate, abstract details that make up the difficult parables that we find throughout the teachings of the Arizal by means of modern technology, with the aid of 3D video animations. And although we cannot currently grasp these hidden emanations of God so long as we are still trapped in our physical body, nevertheless, the fortunate individuals who will make the effort to learn these holy parables to the extent that the human brain can currently understand, they will certainly be rewarded in the world to come and see firsthand what all these Kabbalistic parables actually refer to in the spiritual realm, but only once we are stripped of our physical body, which currently stands in the way of our understanding. With that in mind, I invite all the precious souls who once stood at Har Sinai to come as close as possible to actually seeing the word of Hashem.